Thank you for your patience. We are going to start right away. Just a gentle reminder, please put your cell phones on silent mode or kindly switch them off. May I request all the panelists to please come up and take your seats. And our moderator, our author, our panelists, please come up. Please take your seats. Our esteemed panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends in the media, on behalf of Leadstart Publishing, Oxford Bookstores and AHAVA Communications, a very, very warm welcome to all of you to the launch of the book Random Subterranean Mosaic 2012 to 2018, penned by Mr. Sabarna Roy. The book is a kaleidoscope of random yet mysteriously structured to a pattern, fiction, semi-autobiographical and autobiographical pieces. I now take immense pleasure to introduce to you the author and the panelists this evening. I start with Mr. Sabarna Roy, the author. He is the author of 4 books, Pentacles, Frosted Glass, Abyss and Winter Poems. A civil engineer by profession, he graduated from Jadavpur University in 1988. He spends his time on books, music, movies and international television series. When he is not writing or at work in an engineering manufacturing organization in Kolkata, with no love for pets or gardening, although he loves forests and wildlife, or socializing, and a lot of time for introspection and deep and not so deep thinking, Roy reflects his views on the global order and individuals striving to find their place in it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sabarna Roy. May I request Shushroto to just felicitate our author. Dr. Monisha Chakraborty, seated at that end. I'll just introduce her, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Monisha Chakraborty is Associate Professor, School of Bioscience and Engineering, Jadavpur University. She completed her graduation, post-graduation and PhD degree in engineering, again from Jadavpur University. She was the university gold medalist for standing first class first in her master's at the engineering examination. Dr. Monisha Chakraborty visited University of Surrey in England as academic visitor for postdoctoral research activities. She also visited Dublin, City University in Dublin, and was invited as an international member from India at the 21st International Conference on Advances in Materials and Processing Technologies, AMPT 2018, for chairing 2 sessions and for delivering presentations at the conference. Dr. Monisha Chakraborty is the author of many chapters of reference module in material science and materials engineering. The magazine is called Elsevier, where you write. Yes. She has also worked as the review editor of this reference module. She is currently working as section editor of biomaterials, section of reference module in material science and materials engineering. Again for the magazine Elsevier. Recently she visited Guwahati on invitation from Elsevier Publishing House as a guest speaker at the Elsevier eBook Forum 2019 South Asia. Dr. Chakraborty has published 51 journal papers and has also published 63 papers in national and international conferences. She has delivered lectures in various national and international forums. She loves Rabindra Sangeet. She feels this is a medium that can unite us all with strings of emotion. Her two Rabindra Sangeet music albums, Tomar Shure and Tomar Kache, were released at the Kolkata International Book Fair in 2018 and 2019 respectively. Her book of poems, Journey So Far, A Glimpse, was released at the Kolkata International Book Fair 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, as she gets felicitated, please welcome Dr. Monisha Chakraborty. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, seated right here, Ruma Chakraborty. Ruma Chakraborty is a senior English teacher at the Shushila Birla Girls' School. Teaching is both a profession and a vocation for Ms. Chakraborty. She has a 20-year experience in teaching, of which 12 have been dedicated to teaching both regular and special children. That is, children with dyslexia, ADHD, ADD, fear psychosis, conditions that make learning and teaching difficult. It is but one of the hats donned by her. An amateur painter, her works have been exhibited at regular intervals at the ICCR Kolkata, Oindrilla Dutt, Pradarshon Shala, at the Gallery Gold, to name a few, and Gallery Gold, ladies and gentlemen. A bohemian by nature, she is an entrepreneur running a boho jewelry brand called Bohemian successfully. Teaching literature has led her to the natural progression of thoughts, and currently she is in the process of writing a compendium of short stories. An alumni of Loreto Schools, St. Xavier's College and Calcutta University, she has benefited from the vision of her educators, as she is a social activist trying to run a sustainable recycling unit with the underprivileged youth of her locality. An intrepid traveler, having traveled extensively around the world, a typical Bangali in matters of food, being both gourmet and gourmand. An example of the argumentative Indian and inquisitive learner to boot. She is a quintessential Renaissance woman. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ruma Chakraborty. Thank you. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is Sourabh Mukherjee. Sourabh Mukherjee is the best-selling author of two psychological thriller novels, The Colors of Passion and In the Shadows of Death. The Colors of Passion was longlisted for film adaptation in World to Screen 2018, conducted by the Mumbai Academy of Moving Image, and was among the top 10 new releases in Starmark outlets across India during the month of its release. In the Shadows of Death, He is among the first set of Indian titles commissioned by Storytel, a popular global audiobook platform. Eminent book recommendations website mybookpick.com ranked both the novels among the top Indian thrillers for 2015 and 2017. Sourabh has also written 3 short story collections released as digital exclusives. Romance Shorts, a collection of dark romance short stories, which won the Golden Pen Award in the Monsoon Romance Contest in 2014 and was ranked at as fourth among popular romantic books of 2016 in an online poll conducted by popular e-zine salismania.com. The 2-part Beyond 22 Yards on stories of love and crime from the world of cricket was among the first 400 Indian titles acquired by Amazon Audible India on its launch last year. The 7-part series, It's All About Love, is now among the Readers' Club all-time best titles in Jagannath Books, now called Airtel Books, India's premier mobile reading platform. His books have received accolades from readers, critics, and several daily magazines and websites, and from the mainstream national media like the Times of India, the Hindu, Business Standard, the Indian Express, and so on. Sourabh has spoken in events like the Kolkata Supernatural Literary Festival and the International Women's Day Tri-Series Debate organized by the Rotary Club, Kolkata. An electronics and telecommunication engineer from Jadavpur University, in his day job, Sourabh works as Vice President for Accenture. He is also the author of several publications on emerging trends in business and technology. He also sits on the industry advisory boards for a number of premier educational institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sourabh Mukherjee. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, Santasree Chaudhuri. A published author, Santasree Chaudhuri is an award-winning social entrepreneur. She is the founder, trustee and chairperson of the Green Tara Social Initiative, a poet and a poetry filmmaker. Santasree Chaudhuri is also a logistics management consultant. She is the owner of Bodhi Tree and the creative art advisor of Bodhi Tree Monastery of Art. Santasree is also the founder of the International Women's Short Film Festival and the Green Tara Peace Panorama. She is also a women's rights activist. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Santasree Chaudhuri. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator for the event is Miss Oindrilla Dutt. Oindrilla Dutt is an arts and events curator and presenter, having presented events at heritage venues such as Raj Bhavan, Princep Memorial, Laskar Monument, Town Hall, etc. She has worked with renowned artists such as Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, Amitabh Bachchan, Usha Uttup, Malika Sarabhai, Bikram Ghosh, Pandit Balmurli Krishna, the late Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra, Shubha Mudgal, Lilet Dubey, and many more. Directed sonne luminaires at leading heritage sites such as Victoria Memorial. Oindrilla has been a broadcaster and a moderator who has interacted with the late Yash Chopra, Mahesh Bhupati, Jaya Bachchan, Shobha De, Smriti Irani, and others. She is also a freelance writer, having written a book on the Kolkata police and columns for leading dailies such as The Telegraph and The Times of India. She also writes articles for a variety of publications. Oindrilla is associated with a number of NGOs such as the IICP, the Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy, and the Calcutta Samaritans. She has her own organization named Open Doors. Ladies and gentlemen, Oindrilla Dutt. Very briefly, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the gentleman who has painted the gifts that we have felicitated the panelists with. You Prithviraj, can you please come up? Do give him a round of applause. Prithviraj Choudhury is a largely self-taught artist. He hails from a family of traditional artists. His father had a definite impact on Prithviraj's art. Prithviraj is highly fascinated by the sheer beauty of Indian mythological characters and traditional Indian elements, and his paintings feature mostly Indian mythology with an approach of contemporary abstract fusion. Ladies and gentlemen, Prithviraj Choudhury. Thank you so much, Prithvi, for the paintings. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, may I request the panelists to please rise and formally launch the book, Random Subterranean Mosaic 2012 to 2018, penned by Mr. Sabarna Roy. You have to open the cover.
Do it my way. Yes. Share group.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can do better than that. Come on. The book has just got launched in Kolkata. Congratulations, Mr. Sabarna Roy. Thank you so much. I will now hand over the microphone to our moderator, Oindrilla, to take the evening forward. Have a lovely evening and do put your cell phones on silent mode. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, a big thank you to all of you for being here and braving this intense heat. I don't know if it's better where your seat is sitting, but we are about to melt, I can assure you. Okay, let's start without further ado. Sabarna, you know, there are myriad relationships, happenings, people, thoughts, interests that you've covered in your book. A mind-boggling canvas, an array of all of that. Now, it's almost as if you wanted everyone who read your book to identify personally with at least some parts of it. What were your thoughts in doing this? I mean, was this something you did to design? Was there a method in the way you wrote? Or was it just random triggers that started? Could we have one more mic, please?
Hello.
Yeah.
First of all, I think I didn't plan to publish as the book has been published. You know, there was my last book was published in 2013, consisting of poems that had been written in 2011, and from 2012 onwards, I was actually keeping a sort of a diary, but not in the form of a diary. I was actually writing loosely on my computer, and there was pressure on me from the publisher in 2016 to publish a book. So I told him that I was not ready, and then my secretary, Mr. Torun Gattu, he's also here, he told me in September 2018 that you have literally written 450 plus pages. So what do you want to do about it? So I told him, okay, let's go to Kashyam, you and I, we'll read it and see if something can be done about the whole thing. So I read all the 450 pages and cut out at least 2/3 of it, because I don't say that the ideas were not good, but the writing was very poor. And I did not want to spend more time in developing those ideas, because they were also repetitions of what I had not edited. So the balance 1/3 of 450 pages, I sent it to Swaroop Nanda, who is the owner of Leadstart Publishing, and he said on the first read, he and his head of publishing, Malini Nair, they said that first of all, there is too much of politics in the book A, and these are all disjointed articles. Some of it is poems, some of it is prose, some of it definitely looks autobiographical, some of it is also offensive as far as the relationships are concerned. So I said, what you do is you send it to Sita Bhaskar. I have confidence in her. She lives in Mysore, and incidentally she is also a computer engineer from IIT Chennai, and she is a very good writer. I had confidence in her, so I said that you touch base with Sita, and if she says that this will not work, this will not work. So Sita read the entire book. Initially she said that this book will sell if you categorize few chapters under travel, few chapters under politics, few under poems, few under prose. But I told her that but that's not the way I want the book to be, because I want the book to be as it happened to me. Like, I keep on saying that we don't think, thoughts come to our mind. So one day a thought comes to my mind, the other day a very different thought comes to my mind. So I wanted to capture the randomness of the way a man thinks or a woman thinks. So she said that, okay, this is one way of looking at the book. I said, I won't sell it to Swaroop, you sell it to Swaroop, this idea. So she sold it to Swaroop, and Swaroop said, okay, in any case this guy doesn't do any marketing around the book, but it still sells good number of copies. Maybe some of his old readers will read this book too. We will publish the book, no problem. But then I must tell you, Sita was to come here, but because of certain problems in her family, she couldn't. This book finally is a joint work of Sita and mine, because maybe she has not written the book, but she contributed in a large way to the selling of the book, to the publisher, which I feel today, as I read the book today, it strikes me that it's a new kind of writing. Firstly, because the attention span of readers is very low, chapters are very small, so they feel, no, every day I can read 3 chapters between my work and form an idea, next day I can read another 3 chapters. One problem Sita had about the incomplete conversation set pieces, that she said, this is really incomplete. So I said, a writer can die in between writing something, but yet the incomplete work has meaning, some kind of a meaning. So you consider that in this piece, the writer is dead. So she said that we will then close the book here. I said, but factually the writer is not dead. So what we will do is we will keep some chapters after this as well, and we will term it as incomplete conversation set pieces. So this is how broadly the book came about.
Out from the sleeve, something that Sabarna has said. All my life I have struggled to achieve an optimal lucidity in language and expression that is required to demystify the hidden self and selves and agendas. I want want to ask both Ruma and Sourabh. First of all, I want everyone on this panel to give a brief few sentences about what appealed to you, what you liked about this book, and to deal with his language. Sabarna just said it's easy to read because they're very short chapters, surprisingly short, and yet they grip your interest, they hold your interest. And what I found is that it's not a very slim volume, vast number of topics covered without any random design really, and yet it's very easy to go through them, to read them. So I'm going to ask both of you about his language in the context of what he's written here. How much of it has he achieved, and what appealed to you about it?
To begin with, I would like to say that those who can, they do. Those who can't, teach. And as you know that I am a teacher, it is my job to go through a piece of literature like one does in the biology lab with a little specimen. Dissect, bisect, cut it open, let's tickle it here, let's find out things. And I think as mystery story writer or a detective would do, they would look for clues. The first thing that appealed to me when I got the book is it's called Random Subterranean Mosaic. I love the collection of 3 words. Well, it is a random thought if it is a diary. It's a modern day take on a diary. I felt that, in the true tradition of the diary, a diary, let's say, goes back to maybe Samuel Pepys' diary in 1660. And then if you take it to the modern context, which child amongst us has not heard of the diary of the wimpy kid? Jeff Kinney makes absolute sense. And between that very exalted and this very, ready-made diary, this one lies in between. He has made a very happy, connection between that purest form of the diary and this diary as we write these days. Any rambling thoughts. So it's random. And he is a little random in his collection of thoughts, and therefore that is justified. It's definitely subterranean because it is thoughts like in stream of consciousness, something that bubbles under his mind when he's thinking consciously and he's talking to all of us. It is subterranean. And then, we all know, because I'm an artist, a mosaic is usually made out of fragments of broken pieces. So I think, from my point of view, as a teacher of English, it's a book that justifies its heading, and I really like the fact that he is really kept to that it is Random Subterranean Mosaic. And also, he has talked about lucidity of language. He has. He doesn't use anything that obfuscates what he wants to say at hand. He has these little set pieces of stories that could be made into full-fledged, full-blown novella or novels. But he's shortened it in a little gist, and it makes absolute sense. He talks about human relationships that you and I will be able to identify with. He talks about things that you and I will think in passing, and he says things that are fairly lucid. He talks about politics without pinching on too many toes. He talks about people, he talks about situations, talks about emotions, and all in fairly understandable language. There is nothing that is very obfuscated here, or there's nothing that's dense, very morose. It's not. It's a diary in the modern context that's eminently readable. I think he is really kept to his brief, and it is indeed a good Random Subterranean Mosaic.
In fact, Ruma, I really agree with that. That reading of it being a diary, and whether it's Pips or the wimpy kid, that pattern of thoughts, a collection, a canvas of thoughts, covering a vast, a spectrum of subjects. That is quite fascinating in today's world, because to be able to write with feeling or with knowledge about those, that also is important.
And I'd just like to add one thing. I felt that, anyone in today's internet era, where you're on show, whether you like it or not, you're on the net, you're on the social media, to be able to write a book that is in the form of a diary to be open to, let's say, accolade or approbation or even tremendous amount of criticism. I think it takes a lot of gumption to do that in this era. So writing a book as a diary, I think that's an amazing literary device to use in today's day and time.
Okay, great. Sourabh.
Hello? Yeah, no, I think Ruma completely agree with what you said. I think my first observation when I started reading the book, and like Chaudhuri said, and this is a very fast read. It looks voluminous, but the way the book has been written, I think I finished the book in about 2 or 3 sittings at the most. So the first thing that struck me is this. That see, whenever an author writes a book, there's always a bit of him or her in whatever he or she writes. And people who know the person can easily figure out that, okay, this is a certain way of speaking, this is a certain behavioral pattern, this is a certain kind of action, which is very familiar. So it's all for his people known to him to figure out. I remember sometime back I read an interview of Rakhi Gulzar, where she said that whenever I read Gulzar's poems, or whenever I read pieces of prose that Mr. Gulzar writes, I can very easily find out a lot of things that happen between just the two of us, which probably the rest of the world cannot understand, cannot figure out. But there is for the woman in his life to very easily understand and figure out and relate to. So that happens with authors all the time. There's always a bit of the author in whatever he or she writes. But the big difference here is this book is extremely uninhibited. And that is something which I really like, and for me that is something which makes this book very differentiated from a lot of other conventional writing. And Ruma, like as you said, that whenever an author wants to put on paper some of his personal experiences or some of his personal points of view, they usually hide behind their characters, because in many cases...
I just want to step in here. In fact, one of the astonishing things is that the feelings, the relationships that he's talked about, whether in the man-woman context, there's a lot of that, but also child, parent, and others. Could you relate to it? Did he make you relate to it? Could you identify the various hues that were used? Could you relate to them in any way?
Right, absolutely. So I think, first of all, that was very uninhibited, what I was talking about. That you are not really afraid of criticism, and you are not hiding behind your characters, but you are putting it on your own. Now, coming to the areas that I could relate to, and Shaban had also shared this with you, there are 2 broad areas where I could very closely relate to what you said. So there is a chapter in this book where, just as a set of random thoughts, the author writes down a few things that come to his mind at the beginning of a new year, right? And one of the things that you have said there is that, I feel that, I've reached a point in my career, I may not be using the exact words, but what you were saying is that, I feel I've reached a point in my career where there isn't much left for me to look forward to. And, I completely understand where you are coming from, that, when you sort of rise through ranks at a very fast pace, you reach that stage in your life when suddenly there are not too many peaks around you that are yet to be scaled, right? And that often leads to a sense of, stagnation, or, a sense of, okay, what's next? Where else can I go and, do something which is more exciting, which makes me look forward to tomorrow? And that's the reason why you see so many people at a certain stage in their career, they move away from a traditional or a conventional career and they start writing, right? So, for example, I have done my engineering, I have worked always in an information technology company, but then I took to a career in writing as well. And people start learning the piano, people often go away from the city to a small town in the hills and they start teaching to a group of children in a primary school. So a lot of people do that, and that's something that I could very closely relate to. And the second thing, again, that I could relate to, Sabarna, was you say that, while this is all fine, we would all love to, not go to office day after tomorrow on Monday morning, and we would love to go away to Darjeeling and start teaching in a school, or I go away to Shantiniketan and start working with, socially backward people. But then immediately the thought comes to my mind, would I be able to still sustain the kind of lifestyle that I maintain today? Because we sort of become slaves of our own habits and our own ways of living and all of that. And what happens in the process is that a lot of creative people, a lot of people with a philanthropic mindset, we often put ourselves in shackles because we are slaves to our own aspirations. And in many of the pieces that Sabarna has written, and this question is coming up repeatedly. He's saying, are you standing for yourself? Your family may or may not stand for you, but are you in the first place standing for yourself? Are you ready to break all these shackles and do whatever your heart wants instead of listening to your mind? So I think at a stage in my life where I am today, and with a secure job and at the same time my aspirations in writing, these are a few things that I could very closely relate to.
Okay, thank you, Sourabh. I'm going to come back to Sabarna. There's a large chunk here where one after the other you're writing about man-woman relationships. There's Oshani, Monisha, there's, they apart, they're in love, they part, their lifespans become different, and yet they never fall in love with anyone else even though they don't want to meet. There's Rahul and the Thai lady, and the temporary transience transient nature of that. There's Rindula and Prithviraj, Krishna and Krishna Kuli, which was very sweet, the father and daughter, Rahul, and there's a whole lot of this. Are these all people you knew, or are some of them figments of your imagination?
Yeah, what is I look at it in a very different way. If something you imagine is also real, because what you can imagine falls in the realm of reality, because something which is surreal you can't imagine. You have a sense of it. Now, it will be a great giveaway in this audience if I were to tell you that, in fact, my father is sitting here after reading the book. The first question he asked was, I hope you are not into all this that you have written. That is what he wanted to be assured of. So I said that, this kind of assurance will not work, because normally what I will end up saying is that I am not involved in all this. But then the obvious question is, how do you know all this? Which means that you must be involved in some way or the other. So this question, is that I have written about others, they are not real characters. I don't want to go into that. They are part of me. Because if a writer cannot back up his characters, he is a very poor leader. He is a poor leader. He cannot abandon his characters. So they are a part of me. Maybe I want to be like them. Maybe I have been like them. But that's not a straight-cut answer I am going to give them. But yes, I know them very well.
Okay. I'm going to come to Santasree. Of course, I want to know what you thought of the book. But just a few words about that. Not too long. But I also want to ask you, Sourabh just mentioned travel, going on to traveling, etc. And one of the most charming parts, there are different facets, I think, in this book, if I were to compartmentalize it, is that he's also dealt with places, short chapters, Jaipur, Gulmarg, Kangra, Vembanad, Chilka, then Tawang, many. He's dealt with them, and they're not travelogues. What he's done is he's picked on certain salient features that have appealed to him. Maybe the food somewhere, the hotel he stayed in, the vista, and it's quite charmingly put so that you're interested in that place. Did you find that? Did it tickle the wanderlust in you? Would you like to visit on the basis of what he's written?
Let me thank AHAVA Communications and Sabarna Roy and my co-panelists and all the audience here. Well, I just want to start this with four-liner of my poem, is if they all met at Cafe Pushkin. It's an imaginary conversation between Alexander Pushkin, Anna Akhmatova, and Leo Tolstoy. In 2015, when she said about travel, I traveled to Russia, and the first thing I did when I landed there, I straight away went to Tolstoy home, and I was just sitting there for 2 hours, and as if the trees were talking to me, the leaves were talking to me. So I just want to relate his book with 4 lines of Anna Akhmatova. Secrets of secrets are within me. Rising from the past, my shadow is running in silence to meet me. Rising from the past, my shadow is running in silence to meet me. So, the courage to be yourself, what has amazed me, Mr. Sabarna Roy, and being unafraid to feel to be nobody but yourself, which I have, found from his writing. So, an unpublished manuscript, has been, published. And in a published, I mentioned earlier, somebody called me from the press, I said about that an author's diary, and I don't now call him a diarist, because now that I've gone to the book on a random way, I played book cricket, I just opened it and I read that piece. I just opened, I read that piece. And now, like the places what Oindrilla has said, being a Buddhist, so Tawang, Kangra Valley, everything is so near to my heart. But I don't find any mention of Buddha, I don't find any mention of religion, I don't find him visiting a monastery, but he preferred to, like say, ek kamre mein band ho, some kind of a small, like that, our young age, that Bobby film.
And he also talked about the heritage, Kangra, 3,500
so
years old.
this is mostly, like in a Wikipedia also you can get, the everything. But he is not readily, like this is not a travelogue. But he has just, like said he has visited those places. But those places are very, very Buddhist. So he has not mentioned about that. So which I like about, because I usually when I go, and the first thing I said, oh, I've been to this monastery. Okay, I've been to this. So he has, touch base those. So I'm a very avid traveler. I've traveled all over the world. But in any ways, I felt that, it's not a travelogue, and whatever, like that, it's an interesting format. It's an interesting format, and it's put the pieces in a very interesting way. So this is what I can say about the book. Thank you.
Thanks so much. In fact, what I said this a bit before, what you get from each of his pieces is like a little book. The food at a place in Jaipur, Nero's. The wetlands, the importance of that in Chilka. So that I found was charming. That it's a beguiling way of introducing the reader to the charms of a place. Okay. Somebody who went to Jadavpur, another Jadavpur person who's very strongly still associated. Have you read his piece on Jadavpur? Yeah. Okay, you have. So he mourns, he really laments over the state of Jadavpur, and he has some very firm ideas about what can be done to make it better, and the mafiosi, as he calls them, educational, academic mafiosi, and the politicians who should not be interfering. So I'm going to ask you specifically about how you related to Jadavpur.
Well, first of all, good evening all of you. I'm very happy to be a part of this August gathering, and I'm thankful to the organizers for inviting me, and of course giving me the chance to read this book. And I congratulate the author for writing this pieces and presenting all of us. So this is no doubt a very good step for anybody to vent it out, whatever the feeling you have in your mind, and put it in lines. Well, regarding Jadavpur University, I am a student of this university. I'm happy that I'm a teacher of this university, and I'm right now here with my students. So my life is not complete without Jadavpur University. Jadavpur University is always vibrant, and it will remain vibrant all the time, whatever comes in. It is the beauty of this university, it is the color, it is the vibrancy of this university. Why do you know? Because it is because of the students. Students are very beautiful, very nice, very innocent. It is how we tackle them. If you love somebody, they will love you. So that is the beauty. That is the beauty in any relation. Now, regarding this book, I have read because I'm a student till now, I believe. And being a teacher, I read this book all throughout. I agree to all the views of all the panelists. So I don't want to go to any kind of repetition of any lines, whatever they say. To me, this is a collection, no doubt, of course, in a very candid manner. There is innocence, there is life, there is reality. But the point is, in each and every line, to me, as an engineer, and as well as, I also wrote a book, so I know when one writes. One writes when one feels there is an essence of vacuum. Because vacuum gives you the space to vent out, right? Because there is many things in your mind, and you feel that you are inside a vacuum. So you will vent it out in order to balance and bring it into equilibrium. So I feel this is the concept of the author, because in each and every line I felt, and it is my observation, there is loneliness. And he also mentioned in chapter 17, a manifesto of loneliness as my mentor. So in each and every line I found that the author felt a concept of loneliness, and he enjoyed that loneliness. And it is due to that loneliness, there is emptiness. And wherever there is emptiness, there is creativity. And it is the product of this creativity that we are here with this book, Random Subterranean Mosaic, 2012 to 2018, Time Frozen in My Great Thoughts. So that is the final product that we have today with all of us. Now, as already this was mentioned, I also felt it very beautiful. Prithviraj and Parashuram, a very touching story. I really loved it. I loved that chapter, Incomplete Conversation. I was waiting what would happen at the end, so I really enjoyed. And of course, in each and every line, I found that the author wants to tell us something, but finally he concluded. So this is another, what I should say, a curiosity to read each and every line. So all the chapters are very brief, very short, so that is another beautiful concept. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monisha. I'm going to read out a poem that Sabarna asked me to read. I'll tell him to introduce you briefly to the poem later, and then I want to ask him something about his poetry. They chopped blocks of wood on oil crackling and boiling. They forgot the charm of cotton ball plugs, the sight of wetted white petals of fecund flowers. The absent-minded twirl of smoke chains, incense sticks, the sonorous trail of holy hymns, crackling sounds of earthen pots, and above all, the communal mourning around the corpse. Instead, they hurled me down, inside a pit, laboriously excavated, dark and deep, and instantaneously covered it up with fast-setting slurry, with a slate of hands that can be defeated only by mystic magicians at work. So I existed there, frosted miles below, from where you are waging your philosophical wars on trains against commuters struggling to reach their office on time, commissioning ecstatic cocaine soirees on yachts and rafts, executing orgies with strangers on a plane, stealing antiquity from private museums of nouveau billionaires. That must have been one of the passages that worried his father. For you had told me once, I will blow up my life, indoctrinating me with the scent of your body and introducing me to the nucleus of this explosive club, death rattle clanging. What holds me here is an intricate web of undefined silence and darkness, so pure in form, in this marsh of soil, water, plant roots, and rotting flesh. You worry sometimes, don't you, struggling in sleep? Do I remember your face and touch as I crossed over the perimeter of life? Do I know that your face is one among their faces? Do I remember all their faces as distinctly as I should? Do I remember a plot of blowing up our lives? Might I end up sharing it with a fellow corpse? Remembering and forgetting a complex phenomenon, even otherwise, more so after you've crossed the gate. Sometimes, nowadays, I will to laugh at your words crafted out of beliefs, mostly non-beliefs, yet preached with so much intensity, precision and timing. A way of time passing for all of us at this explosive club, Death Rattle Clan. First, why did you ask me to read that poem and not any other? Why is it special to you? Because it seems morbid, looking inwards. What is it that was special? And tell us something about your poetry writing process.
Hello. Actually, there is no process to my poetry writing. This is a poem which my school friend Pansy told me. Now she's in Bangalore. We studied in Sacred Heart Convent School, Ludhiana. She's in Bangalore now after the Winter Poems was published, and she incidentally bought it from Oxford Bookstore, and she said that this is a poem which matches with the temper or tenor of Mr. Batalvi, who is a self-destructive Punjabi poet. I have not read Mr. Batalvi, but then she described me that this is in essence what you are. You always are looking inwards. You are not never actually concentrating on the outward part of life. You're always busy with yourself, looking at your shortcomings or what you are good at. This in a way also deals with some kind of repressed religiosity, conflict of religiosity in my mind, although I am an atheist, because you will find that the man who is dead, who is under excavated below, is also mourning that he has not been put up on a funeral pyre. So you see two kinds of systems here. Without going into the religions, now there is an indication that the dead man has something left inside him, and he is still in a state of melancholia that he should have been put in a funeral pyre, but he has been brought down below. But he had very interesting kind of friends who were thinking of blowing themselves up, and not necessarily in a political revolution. So you see, self-destructive people attract me very much. People who are on the border of the edge, living on the edge, and they attract me very much. And I read about these kind of people a lot. And I also watch literary movies around these kind of people. So this is, and there is no process in my writing. 1 month, one day I told my wife that I'm going to SMS you 1 poem a day for the next 30 days. So she said, you can't fulfill this. This is not possible. But I fulfilled it. She's here, you can ask her. And 18 to 20 poems are there in Winter Poems. So people feel, and one thing people who have read my books would understand that I'm not a romantic person at all. In fact, I abhor any kind of romanticism. I don't like sentimentality. Rather, I like people who are detached from their emotions. They are
I
less
have to
angry.
butt in here. This is certainly something I would love to know about. He's written rather a warm, wonderful love letter to his wife, Dee. And yes, I don't know about romanticism, but it's very appealing, very real, very honest. Just as he's written letters to his son Bholu and his daughter Tista and many more. His father, he's done a lot of pieces to his father. His father's wanderlust, his father. So how difficult is it, especially in the light of what you just said? No, I don't do that. But actually you do. giving it a different garb maybe. How difficult is it to reveal your innermost feelings, lay bare your soul, or is it in fact easier to do so in the written word rather than
You see, something, something when you are writing a letter, frankly, when you are writing a letter, you are doing a political act also at the same time. Because you are appealing to what, I'm writing a letter to my wife, no? I'm not writing a letter to Susan Santos, okay? So sometimes. So I know that what will appeal to her. So in that letter, I'm trying to win her over to my side. Maybe even in the letter to my son and the letter to my daughter. But I would like to tell you that piece, that short story that I wrote, 2 stories which I did modeled on my daughter, was the Pondicherry story and that tooth cavitation Krishna Koli. That I did on my daughter because they know that there was a real dental surgery done on her, and I told her that no, but she didn't keep it for me actually. So there is a lot of, as I said, these characters are real, but when I'm writing a letter, even in the professionals arena, I'm clear about to whom I am writing and what will win her over. But there are certain literary things in those letters because of which Sita also felt that we should keep these letters in the book.
Okay, I'm going to go quickly to literary influences, and I'm going to start with you. You know, he mentions in a paragraph, he's written about Mohsin Hamid's book, the first one, with intense admiration, really. And you've also mentioned about that you really admire writers like Rushdie, Amo Kundera, Murakami, others. So, do you think, in the light of what he's written, that there's a certain style that you see that he would have taken off from any of these writers? Like Murakami?
Yeah, so I was coming to that. So I've read a bit of Murakami myself. And in terms of the randomness, in terms of the visuals that he creates through his writings, I definitely see an influence there. Because, you know, if you pick up any of Murakami's novels, you know, even if it's in the format of fiction, it's a novel, you still see that kind of randomness. You know, often there is a lack of continuity, which a lot of his writers follow. Absolutely, and even the imagery that you see. So that's something that I could definitely play.
Okay, you tell us something about how much of an influence this had on you. I mean, he says something like, I would give anything to be part of their lives, even their gardener. He hates gardening, but even their gardener for a while.
Yeah, let me tell you, 1994 was a watershed year for me as far as literature is concerned. That was the year I was exposed to the unbearable lightness of being by Milan Kundera. One of the things I could boast about is I read most of the Nobel laureates 15 years before they are awarded with the Nobel Prize. That's an average I have clocked. So I can sense who is going to get the Nobel Prize and who is not going to get the Nobel Prize and why. Like Milan Kundera will never get a Nobel Prize because of the kind of irreverences that he has. And he is mostly known as an anti-communist writer, but people don't understand that he is an extremely anti-capitalist writer too. And he teaches the art of the novel in, at Sorbonne. In fact, when we went to Paris, we thought that we'll have an interview, we'll clock an interview with him, but we couldn't book that. That's another part. Okay, so coming to the basic issue about when I started reading Milan Kundera very deeply, I went back to Nietzsche once again. Now, in terms of thoughts, I would say I am deeply influenced by Kamu. I am deeply influenced by Kamu because Kamu has helped me to say a very easy word, stay positive in life. The other day I was telling somebody that I'm not hopeless because I don't start with hope. That's my starting point. I would be hopeless because I had no hope. I was talking with reference to the May 23 referendum that we had last. So I was not hopeless because that never made me hopeless because I never had hope in anything. So it's a kind of a day job you are doing every day, like the myth of Sisyphus. You are pushing the rock to the up the hill, you get tired, the rock reaches on the top, you take rest and the rock falls off. So you go down and then once again start with the rock and push it up to the mountain peak. So it's a day job. Whatever you are doing, rebelling or whatever, so you are doing a day job. So, you know, and one of the things I think that has not been discussed about the book is that it's a deeply political book also.
I just wanted to ask that, you know, he has very definite, and you can make up that there has been a lot of thought behind this. Political commentaries, economic political commentaries. He talks about capitalism. In the next chapter, he talks about, or whatever, whichever order, he talks about Marxism. Talks about the reasons for the failure, maybe, of Marxism or the lacuna areas. So, what I wanted to ask you is that a passion also? Politics, do you study it?
Yeah, I am a political animal. I was telling Parvez today that any word that I write is political. Even if it is about a man-woman relationship, because everywhere I find power structures playing. So even among friends there are power structures. So everything is political. Whether you are eating a chicken burger or a beef burger or a vegetable patty, there is political, there is politics in it. So, but yes, I don't have definite political views. The next project that I'm going to take up is I am critiquing in the book all kinds of political entities that are there in the country.
Wonderful. He'll have to leave this country and this day. I just come home to Monisha. Monisha, did you read those chapters on politics? Oh, you didn't. Okay. So I will ask, and this is the last question I'll ask others, other than Shabana, I have a question for him. You read his chapters about Gauhar Jan and the Beatles. What do you think of the spectrum? Obviously, it would be an interest. Though in Gauhar, he talked more about the play, advised everybody to see it. So what did you think of that, the musical spectrum?
The very fact that here's a writer who writes about the entire spectrum of music, be it Hindustani classical, be it rock, be it rhythm and blues, and he is very candid about being introduced to these forms of music by people other than, you know, himself, his colleagues, his children, who introduce him to these musical forms, I would say. And the fact that after he has been exposed to them, how relentlessly he follows up and wants to find out more. You know, here's a learner. He has the profile of a learner because once he's got to know about something, he wants to get to the bottom of it. He wants to know it all. And I think that's amazing. He talks about Gauhar Jan. He talks about the play, yes. But he talks about Gauhar Jan as the first Indian superstar. And he calls her that. And he says that she is somebody that our present generation does not know about. So that therefore, he would like indigenous music to also come to the forefront, along with, let's say, the Beatles. And not many of the people here, the youngsters at least, are very into Beatles because Beatles are so dated, can I say? I mean, the people who are into Beatles and, well, they are aficionados. But the
I have to step in here. It almost sounds like sacrilege. Yes, I am from the Beatles era. But to call the Beatles dated I almost fainted at that.
Oh, but my children are
Very popular,
but
still.
very deeply into Beatles.
Yes, the universal appeal through the ages, because they talked about things that appeal to people through the ages, even now. Yeah. Okay. Question to you before we end. You perhaps would like to tell us a bit about your musical leanings, and also wanted to ask you. This is random, but suddenly in the middle of all this, in Omerta, you talked about the man who was responsible for Daniel Pearl's killing. What interested you in him, and not in, let's say, Shobraj or anybody else?
No, you see, first of all, Omerta, when I watched the film, I had some expectations about the film, that it will be dealt with some kind of responsibility and respectability art desires. But when I watched the film, I found that it has been dealt with very very superficially, rather very shoddily. So then I wanted to present the facts to myself. So in the diary I was writing that what are the facts, and I also studied on it, and these are the facts. I mean, we don't have. I was telling somebody today that we don't have journalists like Kathy Scott of Guardian or Bernard Levy anymore. I mean, who can? Because this kind of reporting and journalism in India has completely stopped, both in the print as well as the electronic.
I have a question. Why is that? Is it because, I mean, you've talked about his chess playing when he was in the UK. So it was like you were trying to delve into his mind. What made him the person he was? But today, is the stress more on sensationalism? I mean, you've had the UK origin woman. She was a young girl then who crossed over to ISIS. And there's a big hoo-ha. But there was nothing really about why.
Yeah. You see, one of the issues that has bothered me very deeply, frankly speaking, is the when I first read Reluctant Fundamentalist by Mohsin Hamid, something, and I still remember the day 9/11 when I was traveling from Nagpur to Calcutta by an Indian Airlines flight, and somebody very close to me told me on phone that something very good has happened about 9/11, and I supported her. So then I found that this Reluctant Fundamentalist is about a novel which actually is a reaction of a common Muslim in USA. I mean, he says, good riddance. Now, the book is all about that. The political Islam, which is a project of the USA and the Saudi Arabia, attracts me very deeply because it actually takes you away from the philosophical Islam. It actually takes you away from philosophical Islam. And the kind of great damage that we have done to ourselves by doing it. The same thing, has happened to the guys who equate only Hinduism with casteism, and the Hindu thought which prevailed from the ancient times, which asked questions about various kinds of existence, has also withered away. So either you are a ritualistic Hindu or a casteist Hindu, or you don't see a Hindu as questioning like it happened in the Vedas or the Upanishads or the Puranas.
Okay. We've almost done one. I think you have questions. Now, you had asked me to read out a piece called Faces. Unless it's an absolute diktat, could I end with this piece on Gandhi?
Yeah, you go.
Because I think it's something that everybody can relate to. Gandhi has confused me forever. When viewed from the RSS vantage point, Gandhi seems radical. When viewed from the Ambedkar vantage point, Gandhi seems regressive. Ramchandra Guha has always argued that Gandhi was incremental in his approach to Hindu Hindu Reformation, as he was principally a mass movement leader and did not want to alienate a major section of the Hindus in his national movement. Arundhati Roy has always argued that Gandhi in essence was a racist and sexist leader and did not bring the organized Hindu religion scope of torture on the various sections of the Indian subcontinental society, including women to its fullest extent, because he had to run an opportunistic national movement full of melodrama to fulfill his own agenda and political ambitions. My problem is, when I read Ramachandra Guha, I get convinced by him. When I read Arundhati Roy and Ambedkar, I get convinced by them. But I have serious differences with Gandhi on many issues. His response to Bhagat Singh, the Chauri Chaura incident, his archaic views on education, science, women and sex. In these, I wholly side with Robi Thakur in his disagreements with Gandhi, etc. It is also a fact that RSS was wholesomely opposed to Gandhi till the other day when they felt they have to co-opt appropriate Gandhi to enlarge their mass base. I think that's an excellent way of summing up his dichotomies, that he talks about it so openly, his doubts, his questions, his thoughts, and shares them with us in a way that all of us can relate to. I'm sure you have questions. That was... Yeah. Sure.
I love this piece, about the novel, The Discreet Hero. Really, I loved reading that. It's poignant. And you had said about Kundra, your short piece titled Slowness. One sees almost the same angst about the fast-paced modern life and declining art of the slowness. So Kundra wrote about it in his same novel titled Slowness. So I have seen these are the two pieces I really love, and also the another one is Japanese Girl in Pondicherry.
Okay, thank you.
That was modeled on my daughter.
Again, that was the other one. You said two pieces. That was Random Subterranean Mosaic, 2012 to 18. Could we have...
This is a project I have, in a sense, committed. Not committed really. I have, in a sense, committed to my sister on WhatsApp and email that I want to understand the after May 23 happened in this country. Not all of you may agree with my point of view. That I was amazed. In a way, I was amazed. Frankly speaking, I was amazed. So I wanted, and I don't want to go into that. I don't believe EVMs can be hacked and all that. All that shit I don't want to go into. Unscientific things I don't want to go into. I think that there is a requirement of reinvention of the Indian subcontinental thought. You see, India has been influenced by various kinds of Western thinkers. Now, Robi Thakur, in a way, indigenized these Western thinkers in a very beautiful way. Now, I'll give you an example, not of Robi Thakur's, but one of the brilliant Bengali dramas, Ebong Indrajit by Badal Sarkar, which was actually written in Africa when he was on job. He was a civil engineer, we all know that, and later first published in the Bohurupi magazine. When you read Ebong Indrajit, I was trying to transpose myself in 1963. I was just trying to, in fact in 1963 I was not even born, that what was the condition of India. Ebong Indrajit was a extremely radical play where actually the entire drama is happening between ideas and not characters. So this is something which came from the West. But Ebong Indrajit got indigenized because of Badal Sarkar's use of the narrative form and language. Actually, Bengali language was reinvented once again in Badal Sarkar's play. In fact, I don't know how many of you know, Badal Sarkar was also into Esperanto, and Badal Sarkar was also into Esperanto. So coming to the actual project. So I want to go into when I have to go into the Indian subcontinental thought, I have to understand the Hindu texts before Shankaracharya, when Hindu texts were no longer religion, but actually philosophy, areas of thought. We have to understand the Indian Islamic philosophy, which is very different from the Middle Eastern Islamic philosophy. We have to understand Buddhism, and I think, like in Latin America, when liberation theology was used, when Jesus was in Latin America, when people understood, in fact the guerrillas understood that people are into so much of religion that we have to use Jesus as a landless peasant, which he was, and that worked. Now if you want to be, you see, the problem with our liberals is they want to be secular. They don't know the Turkey model, where secularism was preached through the military against the Islamist Kurdish people. And today, Orhan Pamuk actually said you will have an Islamic regime soon after, and today Turkey has an Islamic regime. So secularism always is not a beautiful thing, because it's also a religion when preached very militantly. Atheism is also a religion. I'm an atheist, and I have seen myself arguing with people who are believers. Religion is the opium of the masses, but it has to be corrected. Religion is the opium of the rich masses. Religion is not the opium of the poor masses. That is what my experience tells me. Because when people have no hope, when hunger and poverty are treated as natural calamities in this country, religion comes in the way, in a major way. So you have to convert your free religion into revolutionary texts. Now this I am going to work on, because I need an Indian subcontinental narrative that needs a lot of reading, that needs some time, and that needs a publisher who will pay me higher. That is also there. So I'm looking for all this. So, but 2 years is a good enough of time, because I am not like a European person who can work on the project for a very long time. And you know, there is a difference between the Marxist thought and political Marxism also. Most of the political leaders adopting Marxism actually don't read Das Kapital, don't read 1844 philosophical manuscripts. They had no idea about...
You talked about Sitaram Yechury.
Yeah, Sitaram Yechury was just a passing comment when I saw that Sitaram Yechury is being labeled by certain kinds of intellectuals as having good degrees from good colleges. I mean, that's not a communist. Let's, for God's sake. A communist is some kind of a different person. Our view, at least in Bengal, a communist is very different. Okay. There are a lot of issues to talk about. So this is the kind of thing I'm going to write. This is the kind of project I'm going to write on. I don't know how much justice I'll be able to do, because starting now I'm quite ignorant about these texts. So I have to sum it up. But I have a belief that before the British came, something good was happening in this country, because of which we could adopt anybody coming from outside. So what was the subcontinental narrative that got lost in British colonialism? That we have to find, because that will work.
I just want to give you the last sentence, Sitaram Yechury. What about revolutionary politics? Of course, none. And we have to end, right? Okay, I'll just say one thing where I'm not in agreement at all, which I would know. He said, religion is the opium of the rich masses. Actually, I thought religion was a very powerful tool and opium of a very powerful potency that politicians use to empower or make the poorer sections of society feel empowered. Because when you're suddenly handed a power that you think you have the right to use because it is yours, that stick to beat anybody with, it's a very empowering thought for them. Totally mindless, totally without thought of the context and what can or cannot happen as a result, as a consequence. So there I think I have a major disagreement. Any question? One more to end. Yes, the gentleman at the back. This will be the last question.
एक छोटा सा सवाल है कि if you permit me to speak. सवाल ये है कि जब आप गुलमर्ग या किसी जगह कांगड़ा वैली और किसी जगह की बात करते हैं तो आप एक राइटर के रूप में वहाँ इन्वॉल्व होते हैं, लेकिन एक इंडिपेंडेंट हमारा तो एक आप इंडिविजुअल आप होते हैं वहाँ, लेकिन जब आप कोई पॉलिटिकल कमेंट्री करते हैं तो आप इंडिविजुअल नहीं होते हैं, काफी सा नॉर्मल एक बड़ा ऑब्जर्वेशन होता है। तो एक राइटर के रूप में क्या कि अगर कोई ऑर्डिनरी आदमी अगर उस होटल में ना रुके तो वो कैसे फील कर सकता है उसको, क्योंकि उस होटल में
Sorry, I'm butting in. Could we make it a very short question, please? Not a commentary?
No, I've understood your question.
If you are there as an individual, I won't be there in that hotel. I cannot enjoy this art of writing. I will have to stay in that hotel.
No, that's not true. Actually, I think I have to be truthful about where I am staying, because I cannot, if I am staying in a kind of a hotel, I have to write I am staying in a kind of a hotel. I cannot say that just to make my point. I cannot say that I'm sitting in I'm staying in a different kind of a hotel, and because of the kind of financial situation I am in, maybe I am able to use the privileges of life to an extent, but the 2-year project that I have to take, I think I have to talk to a lot of people on the ground. Like in India, I'll tell you, in India, I see 4 kinds of operating economies: the forests, the urban spaces, and the mofussil, and the suburban spaces, and the farmlands, and the industrial belts. So one has to travel a lot. As much as reading one has to do, one has to travel a lot. Now I am wanting a publisher who could fund my all these travels, just because I'm not able to reconcile to the fact that I'll have to stay in a poorer hotel. Okay. So, but that will not deter me away from the project, let me tell you this. This is a resolve, because I don't know how May 23 has shaken you, but May 23 has shaken me in a very deep manner, and I think a writer has some kind of a job here, like a myth of Sisyphus. He has to push the rock in bringing the Indian subcontinental narrative once again back, and you have to talk to people also whom you oppose, and you have to learn. And because in my professional activity I keep on meeting various kinds of people who are opposed to me politically, I have seen that there are ways to actually talk and learn, but not that you can convert them, but you can use them later on in your ways to tell people. Like one of the great issues is, I am writing in English. How many people, the common people, understand English? So these are issues which I cannot answer. For that, like my friend Amit was asking me today, why don't you write in Bengali? I said, just because I cannot write in Bengali. Otherwise I would have loved to write. because that I think given my strength of writing I would be more popular. But I don't know how to write in Bengali.
Thank you so much, Sabarna. Thank you, every one of you, Ruma, Monisha, Santasree, Sourabh. But most of all, thank you to AHAVA Communications, to Mona and to Shushruto for putting this together, for inviting us to be part of this. Thank you, all of you, for being here and for staying despite the heat. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you rise, before you disperse, could you please put your hands together for our wonderful moderator, Oindrilla Dutt, who was responsible for this riveting conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Oindrilla has already thanked everybody, but I want to thank Oxford Bookstore for hosting this wonderful session, Leadstart Publishing, without which the book would not have happened, our wonderful author. Can you please put your hands together for Mr. Sabarna Roy? Thank you. And our panelists, Ruma Chakraborty, Sourabh Mukherjee, Santasree Chaudhuri, Ruma Chakraborty. Please put your hands together. It was not an easy read for them, ladies and gentlemen. It was not an easy read. So can we have one round of applause for all these lovely people on the panel? Thank you so much. 2 announcements. Please do not leave without refreshments. Mr. Roy has very kindly organized refreshments for all of us. Secondly, if you want to purchase a copy of the books are all displayed downstairs. Kindly pick up a copy. You can sort of pay for them at the cash counter. And Mr. Roy will be available to sign the books. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for being here. Without an audience, we can never have a good event. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thank you for being with us. And have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. Oh, the books are priced at ₹3.99, just for your information. Thank you.